we have as women these rites of passage inbuilt in our biology. We have the opportunity throughout our life, whether it's, on a monthly basis, to let go, to start anew, whether it's with pregnancies or even, in menopause. We have these kind of biological rites of passage that allow us to transform.
Action!
Welcome to the Spirit of Yoga. My name is Kirsten from the Akasha Yoga Academy. Today we explore the topic of transmutation, the process of shedding old skin and being reborn or not, which is so dear to the yogis. And I'm super excited to have you here, Amanda. So today we have a guest, Amanda Noga. She's a dear friend, yogini. She's yoga teacher. She is an Ayurvedic practitioner and mama. And I'm very, very excited about exploring this topic with you, with a yogini, with a mama. And I'm curious where we go.
Yeah.
Amanda, would you like to share your current field of interest, engagement, professionally or privately? Like, where are you at in life right now?
Wow, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to share on the podcast. And what is really current for me? Well, I'm pregnant. So that's a big thing. Pregnant with my second baby. So what's kind of really inspiring me and holding my interest right now as an Ayurvedic practitioner is especially around this topic of fertility and preconception care, as well as, of course, pregnancy and then postpartum. So really these two like anchor points of preconception and postpartum, I feel are so important for us to really, really pay attention to. So that's what I'm loving to share about, and also what I'm actually in, what I'm actually living. So yeah, there's lots on offer there from the world of Ayurveda. Yeah.
Beautiful. So I would like to ask you first, how did you get into Ayurveda and into yoga? How did that come into your life?
Well, it's pretty funny because I was actually pretty lucky to get introduced to yoga when I was in high school. Mm-hmm. We had it as like an elective PE subject that you could choose. So I got it in my cells, in my body when I was like 17 or 16. And it was pretty shortly after that I finished school and I went to India for the first time. And then it was on. Mm-hmm. There was no going back from that. And I came back from that first India trip and I just was obsessed with anything about India. And so I started going to a local yoga studio in Perth in Australia where I grew up. And I just loved it there because it had, you walk in, it smells like the incense. They had like the beautiful Shiva. They had like the bright colored walls, and it just was like my yoga home. And it was an Ashtanga school. So I was practicing Ashtanga like very seriously for that first really like 8 years. I was very, very dedicated to my Ashtanga practice. Rain, hail or shine, you know what it's like. Going to the studio every day, like 6 o'clock in the morning, doing like 2-3 hours of practice, which is, I cannot stress how different my life is from that now. But I feel like it was a really formative time. Being introduced to yoga in that way was like setting a really, really solid foundation. And also at that time, I was really serious about being raw vegan. And so,
which is not at all an Ayurvedic way of dieting or living.
Pretty much the polar opposite. And I took it really seriously. I was quite dogmatic, preaching from the rooftops to everyone that everyone should be eating this way. And I was on another trip to India that I went to see an Ayurvedic practitioner, and she just took one look at me and she was like, what are you doing? You need to eat some porridge, just no more juices, no more smoothies, no more salads, forget about it. And when she said that, I was really like so confronted. I was like, that's everything that I have associated with being healthy.
Yeah.
And you want me to eat like this cooked grains with dairy and ghee? Like, are you kidding me? It was really like not what I wanted to do. But anyway, I'd signed up for a panchakarma, which is like a Ayurvedic detox. And I didn't really know what I was signing up for. I was sort of jumping in the deep end. And for me at the time, I was like, great, another detox, I was on that train. And so I was there. I did what she said. And I couldn't deny how much better I actually felt after, doing starting some of the Ayurvedic protocols. And it was a bit of a bummer because I was really attached to, she even said, no Ashtanga during this time. And that was really like so confronting.
Yeah.
So that was the first seeds of Ayurveda that got planted. And then, of course, I went back to Australia and it took years, that was just like the beginning. But over the last 15 years or so, it's just seeped into every single part of my life. And now it just makes so much sense. And I feel especially for women, it's so nourishing on not only the food sense, but, all aspects of our life.
Would you like to touch upon that a little bit? Like, how do you feel is Ayurveda supporting women in their well-being?
Well, I think one of the big recalibrations that happened for me was understanding that there's a real power and a real value in gentleness and rest. And growing up in this Ashtanga world, raw food world, is very hard, and unforgiving, especially of a woman's experience in the body. When we're menstruating, we're at this point for me having babies and breastfeeding, and it's just a much softer approach, I feel, to health and actually cultivating vitality rather than like burning everything up. And I also, was looking around as a young yogini, looking around at the women I knew that had been practicing Ashtanga for 30, 40 years. And they were often not able to have children and often struggling a lot with this kind of ojas, this juiciness of life force drying up a little bit. So although I didn't clock that at the time fully, now I can see we need to be living in a more cyclical way. That's just, there's no way around that. As much as we want to push and fight and be in this go, it's not sustainable.
Beautiful. Like, I find that so important, this message actually, for women to not follow this masculine path, basically this achieving and linear way of living, but gentleness, like that this is what we need to be nourished and nurtured and striving basically through that. Beautiful. What shifted in your perspective of yoga? Like, I'm very curious to hear, what is yoga for you? Like, what is it for and what does it mean?
It's a big question.
Yes.
I think, when I was in those early years, or maybe like the first 10 years of really being in a dedicated practice, I was only really exposed to, I think things are different now, but at that time I was only really exposed to male teachers and a masculine way of practicing and a masculine approach to spirituality.
Mm-hmm.
And now what feels quite different is that it's really like coming from within the body. It's like this intelligence that is within. I mean, it sounds like cliche, but it really feels like this force that comes from down and up and through the body, rather than trying to be out of the body and transcend in that way. For me, that feels important at this point in my life. And, you know, maybe there'll be a time later where I'm more in that realm again. But for now, it's like really tapping into what's present in the body.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful, beautiful. Speaking about transmutation, speaking about this process of, really shedding old skin and kind of coming out in a complete new way, in a complete different state of being, so to speak. What do you feel is useful when it comes to yoga or Ayurveda to support this process? Or is there a difference between the role of yoga and the role of Ayurveda? Does it complement? Like how does that tie into the process of hatching? And
yeah, I mean, every
opening.
time we birth a baby, we birth ourselves again. I really, really feel that and believe that to be true. And the yoga, for me, it's like that's the through line, that's the constant, that's something that's always there and familiar, even when everything is shifting all around. And of course, the practice looks different every day and through every cycle. But it's that just, you know, that simple time to connect with myself that is like the steady. That's the consistency. And I think what Ayurveda brings for me is this balancing point of having the compassion also. There's like the consistency and the commitment that comes with the yoga. And then the Ayurveda feels like this, you know, like I said, gentle, compassionate, ebbing and flowing and adjusting. It really teaches us on very practical ways how to adapt and how to actually pay attention to what's present. And okay, what do we do with this now? Where is the balance point now? Because the balance point isn't something that's static. It's something that's ever changing. And our job is kind of to pay attention to what is required now. And then again, what's required now, you know? So there's lots of practical ways in which Ayurveda is very, very helpful in supporting, especially women's health. But also just the general philosophy, you know, because it's all about nature. It's a nature-based modality. And in that way, it's inherently feminine, you know?
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah. You just touched upon giving birth is definitely like a reformation or a transformation or transmutation even. Can be any of this. What's your take on or experience on how did the fact of giving birth influence your path, your growing?
I think the biggest struggle comes when we don't allow that previous version of ourselves to die. Really, like in order for there to be the new version born, the old version, or at least part of it, has has to go, has to really be let go of. And I think a lot of us, and I see it with, with friends, I think oftentimes the biggest struggle comes trying to replicate how things were and how we are, how we were. And I don't think that's any fault necessarily of the women. It's a cultural thing, expecting women to bounce back, even, on a physical level. It's not possible. Yeah. And the body is forever changed, and that's beautiful, And this idea that we can return to being our maiden selves that's what causes the struggle and the conflict, I think, anyway. And if we can be given the space and the support, I think that's also a big, big topic. Like, most women are not receiving the support that they truly need at that transition time. Then, it's easier to make that rebirth, that calibration of who we want to be now. And we have, as women, these rites of passage inbuilt in our biology. We have the opportunity throughout our life, whether it's, on a monthly basis, to let go, to start anew, whether it's with pregnancies or even, in menopause. We have these kind of biological rites of passage that allow us to transform. Whereas I think for the male experience, it's more external, it's more like in the culture that we need these rites of passage for men and for boys. And I think that's also another big topic, but something that's been really lost in our culture, and why we have such a big, like a pandemic, not to use that word, but this widespread experience of men going into fatherhood still as boys, really, not fully in their healthy manhood. And again, I don't think that's any fault of the men. It's in our culture that these rites of passage have been lost, and in all traditional cultures that was there and that was important. And I think these rites of passage, whether it's, like I'm saying, kind of in the culture for more the masculine, or in the body for the feminine, either way, we need them. We need these markers in our life in order for this transmutation to really flourish. Otherwise, of course, we're repeating the patterns. Of course,
That's very powerful. I love that statement, that we need those markers, that it's not like
it's not linear.
It's not linear. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, I had that myself, the experience. I was not really aware what I'm getting myself into with birthing a child. And I wasn't so aware how radical the invitation is to let go the past version of yourself and to be with nothing to start with.
Yeah.
And then step by step kind of starting to find new ways of meeting life. And I myself really, because I was going into that kind of blindly, I had at the beginning really struggles of being a mother, kind of this loss of identity in a way.
Course.
And that's quite together, I feel, with giving birth naturally. I experienced, in a way, the body completely opens. Also, of course, all life force that's in is going into this process, and there's a huge depletion basically. And I felt also like Muladhara chakra, like the root chakra, is just like so sucked empty, together with this being in a space of new, and the old just not really accessible anymore. Like for me, that was really a challenge, a big challenge at the beginning, and it took me a while to understand this big gift also of this wiping
Mhm.
clear of life, basically, and the opportunity of for a child kind of very consciously living
Mm.
to the best of my values, and like really living truly what I feel is worth
Mm.
to show a child, basically.
Mhm.
So I wasn't prepared for that. I wasn't aware. I was like a little bit carpet pulled under my feet, I would say.
Yeah.
But I'm incredibly grateful for that. And I see that also in many other women who are like, okay, you know, in 6 weeks I'm back at my job and
Exactly.
I have my appointments again and I do like repeat what was before. But this is not, of course, maybe many go back in a way, but probably I feel that must be such a struggle
Yeah.
in such a new
Well, it
new
makes sense,
birth.
doesn't it? Why so many women experience like postnatal depression and
Yeah.
anxiety.
Yeah.
Of course, if you're not receiving the support, you're expected to be who you were before.
Even by yourself, like or by society, like it is a conditioning from
Mhm.
society that like it's just an event, giving birth, you come back, you have the baby, and everything continues as it was before. And it's so not, like you say, it's a rite of passage. Like there is a really transmutation awaiting, and it's a chance to really fundamentally shift and hatch and
Mhm.
become a new form, or so
a new version.
I find that that is actually something that I would love to see much more discussed, talked about, being available to women and families, not only women, to everybody, like to whole society. Like also, what does it mean when I meet again my wife or my friend or my whoever?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I think for the partners, especially if it's a male partner, it can be really a big adjustment as well. Yeah, there's this, like even just on a physiological process, there's, have you heard this word maturescence?
No, I didn't.
So it's like the adolescence, you know, sort of process, but what's happening during pregnancy and postpartum. So they say that for 2 years, starting from really the conception through to the following 2 years, so the pregnancy and then beyond, the brain, the mother's brain actually has the same level of neuroplasticity as the baby. And so we have not just baby brain, not that we're forgetful, but it's actually this incredible opportunity to rewire, you know, all the old stuff. If there's any stories or patterns or any conditions that you want to bring consciousness to and recalibrate that, it's an opportunity to do that. And I think that's so cool. I only learned about this after I was out of that 2 years with
that's
Sage.
amazing. That's so cool.
It's so cool, right? And so now I'm like, instead of thinking like, oh, I'm such a dummy, I'm so forgetful or whatever, it's like, no, this is like my moment. I can, you know, take that. It's such a cool process that's happening.
That's really cool. I didn't know about that, but it makes sense. Like experientially, it makes sense. Like with this process of really new definition or taking new form, that is reflected in our anatomy, basically.
Exactly.
Beautiful. Wow, that's so cool.
It's cool, huh?
Amanda, I know that in Ayurveda the recommendation is also to wait actually for quite a while between the first and the second child. Do you want to tell us a little about that?
Yeah, so it goes a little bit against the grain of what a lot of women want to do, like having babies pop. But in Ayurveda, it's taught that the ideal child spacing is 3 years and 9 months. So 3.5 years about in between conception. And so baby number one gets everything they need developmentally, you know, until that 3-year mark. They're really still like so much with the mother. And I can see with my son that now at he's 3 and a bit, his gaze has turned so much more towards his dad. And he's really like only coming to me for comfort.
Mm-hmm.
And he's really looking to his dad a lot more. And it's a different, there's been a shift for sure. I can feel that. And that child spacing also means that, you know, developmentally, baby number one gets everything they need. They get their full breastfeeding journey. And then the mother also has time to replenish because, like you said, it's such a depletion. It's full service for those years on every level, emotionally, energetically, physically, mentally. So the mother also needs time to top up before even thinking about conceiving. And then, of course, baby number 2 is able to receive everything they need to, first of all, have a pregnancy in a body that isn't depleted and isn't, you know, undernourished. There's plenty of resources. There's like an overflow to draw from because we know the babies just take whatever they need. And then when they're born as well, you know, they're able to receive the full attention, everything that they need. So I think that's really helpful, and it's, sort of how we're doing things with that timeline. Sage will be, he'll be just over 3.5 when this baby comes. And I can see in him, he's done being the baby. Yeah. And that feels really nice to know, you know, that he's secure. He's like ready to be a big brother.
Yeah, beautiful. That's so cool. Amanda, what would you recommend like women to take care of before conceiving and after giving birth? You see, that's at the moment where you look into what is at the moment, what you feel is really important.
Yeah, so in Ayurveda, the preconception phase is really 1 to 2 years before you fall pregnant. And it's those years, the health of the mother during those years, that determines the health of the baby, which is quite a long time. I feel like often we think, we just get off contraception and then we're ready to go. And of course, you know, many people fall pregnant right away. And that's fine. That's great. However, this preparation time, I think, also eases into this transmutation and this death rebirth that happens if we've really prepared and in that way also had like a lot of closure and really been in the closing cycle of like, okay, I'm not going to be a maiden anymore. And so let's say 1 year before conceiving, that's the preparation time. The first 6 months would be dedicated to cleansing and purifying and restoring balance in the body. And then the second phase is super nourishment, like really getting everything so full in overflow. And that's not only with what we're eating, but it's about in our relationship. It's about our work and our home, and creating a context where we can invite in this new soul. And everything is, you know, of course we can't always have like our ducks in a row perfectly. And there's also the compassion with that, and life happens and the timing is, you know, not always up to us. But as best as we can to prepare, then it creates so much more ease for the transition into becoming a mother. Because as soon as you conceive, you're a mother, you know, whether that pregnancy eventuates in a baby or not. I feel that, that conception, there's already a shift that happens. And it's also understood in Ayurveda that when you become a mother, that is your primary dharma. Our primary purpose is really to be in service to this little child.
Yeah.
And that means everything else that we thought was our dharma or our purpose or our mission goes on the back burner. And that can also be a huge adjustment.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the preconception phase. And if we've taken care in those times, then the pregnancy sort of takes care of itself. You know, it just happens.
Yeah.
It's this miracle.
Yeah.
There's actually nothing really we need to do during the pregnancy except just be, you know, paying attention, being present with it. But postpartum is another really crucial time. And this is where we need to rest fully as much as possible with taking care of a baby, but to be nurtured as the mother, to be, you know, almost mothered as the new mother, the baby version of our new selves that we are in those first 40 days, what's sometimes called the fourth trimester. That is, a really pivotal time. And I heard one of my teachers say once, like 40 days of rest postpartum is contributing to 40 years of our health. And it's really looking forward to like, okay, when we go into, let's say, menopause or even, you know, beyond that, in the later times in life, like how is our vitality being cultivated after the birth, you know, so that we have this, sometimes it's hard to grasp and maybe that doesn't resonate with everybody to have such a long-term vision of why we might rest. But I think the payoff is really quite obvious, you know? And again, like we just, in the culture, it's so common to think that we have to and that we should. And it's a sign of success if we're out and about with the baby at a couple of weeks postpartum.
And many countries also enforce you to come back to work, and they don't even have enough time basically for a mom to be at home and to rest.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really a disservice to everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. But in a lot of traditional cultures, most traditional cultures, they have this period of confinement or it's called different things, but across most traditional cultures there was some practice of staying in the house, everyone else taking care of the cooking and the cleaning and really just allowing the mum to solely care for the new baby, and that's it.
Which is already so much.
Which is already a full-time, beyond full-time job.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it is really a shame how far we've come from that. But that's why I'm so passionate about sharing Ayurveda, because there are ways in which we can integrate the principles, even if we're living in a Western country or in a modern time. We can use these Ayurvedic principles to support us for sure.
So basically you start with cleansing, go into nourishment before conception, and after giving birth, it is to really respect and honor and make space for resting.
Exactly.
And find support.
Yes.
Yeah, I found that also very interesting to see here giving birth in Bali, how family is actually so necessary to bring a child into this world, and it's so not happening in the Western world anymore. It's like a mom and a baby, perhaps a partner or a husband, and that's kind of
stuck in a concrete apartment all day. Like, of course you're going to feel depressed and anxious in that setting. Like, that's a completely normal, natural response to that experience, you know? Why would it be different?
And
Yeah.
then, of course, you're not even supposed to be depressed, but happy because you have your little baby finally.
Yeah, it's so much mixed messages. Yeah.
I found so surprising how, as I gave birth, the idea of how you would be feeling after giving birth, it's also like, pink and sweet and happy and just, it's the best moment of your life and you're just at home and with your baby and it's the greatest thing. But it's such a, and I hear that again and again, like from women when I talk to them, like that it was for me really a struggle and it's not really present. I feel that that's really a very special time.
It is a really special time in the way that it amplifies everything on the spectrum of our, what there is to experience. It is the joys and the bliss, and it can be that. And it can also be really dark and really difficult. I think it also, the same sort of feeling can play out for women in the first trimester, even if it's a pregnancy that they've been planning for and dreaming of and wanting. Sometimes we can get into those first months and feel really confused and really, it's like this dark night of the soul, where it's like, do I actually want this baby? I feel so awful. Like, and sometimes it's not exciting. It doesn't feel, that joy that everyone expects you to feel.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you're pregnant. Like, maybe, there's, I think, the more that we just accept that it is a full spectrum experience and that is inherent for the feminine, the more we can feel all of that and be allowed to and held throughout that full experience, the better. But it's tricky. So many expectations.
Yeah. Beautiful. Very beautiful. Amanda, where can people find you? Where are you? For now, probably
Where am
very
I?
much at home. And also for a while.
Physically, I'm definitely feeling more and more just to be at home.
Yeah.
But of course, I'm online. I've actually been feeling over the last couple of years a pull away from Instagram. I'm still there. My handle's at Yoga Alchemy. But I feel the direction that it's going to synthesize, especially yoga concepts and Ayurvedic principles into like a 15-second reel. Like it can be fun to try and make something poppy and, you can be creative in that way. But what I'm feeling is much more nourishing for me is in my mailing list. I've started a Substack. So it's kind of, reinvigorating my blogging, which I used to do like a long time ago. That was one of my favorite things to do. And for me, it feels much more nourishing to create in that way. And I also feel it's much more valuable for the people that are subscribed, to offer something that has more substance and depth.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm spending more time and prioritizing there. And I think, when the baby comes, I'll probably disappear for a little bit. But again, it feels very different to be writing something that's in a longer form. And, it just feels completely different than being on social media for me.
Yeah.
So that's where I am.
And you're giving occasionally courses also on Ayurveda, right?
Yeah. So I have a course that's kind of at your own pace style learning. And it's an introduction to Ayurveda.
Is that for women?
Yeah,
or for everybody.
I mean, it can be for everybody, but my I guess emphasis is more on women's health. So we go into a lot of different aspects of that, from daily rituals that really help us to purify and to nourish, of course, we go into the food stuff and doshas. We go
Mhm.
into sleep and understanding, again, this value of resting
Yeah.
and gentleness. And we go into sexuality and, everything to do with yoni health and all of that sort of, those topics around cyclical living as well, menstrual cycles. So, of course, this is really important for men to know about as well. But I think if you're a woman, you're going to love it. And you're going to get a lot out of it.
Beautiful.
And what I love the most and the best kind of feedback that I get from women that go through the program is that they're actually integrating the practices and feeling the benefit. Because it's one thing, as you know, to have the knowledge and the theoretical understanding of these things, especially things like Ayurveda and philosophy and yoga. And it's a completely other thing to actually practice it and actually live it. So that's what my real intention and dream for the program is that it's laid out in a way that we receive not only the information, but ways to action it in our daily life and therefore get the benefit.
Yeah. How long is the program?
You can do it over whatever kind of time frame you want. If I was going through, I would do it over 6 months. There's 6 different modules, and so it kind of works out nicely to do it that way. And also it's a slow drip feed into our life, which I think is also helpful. Yeah, we just kind of accumulate a new practice here, a little tweak here, rather than a full overhaul that is sometimes not as sustainable. When we just drip feed it in, I think that works really well.
That sounds so interesting. Amanda, what are your next steps? What's happening for you in the next half year or year? Where will your orientation, your focus be?
I think I'm just really going to be in the baby bubble. Got 2 more months of pregnancy to go. And next year it feels like a really open, clean slate. So we'll see. I'm sort of allowing it to just be unknown and a little bit, the void, because I can also anticipate that what I'm doing now is going to be different again. On the other side of this pregnancy. So, who knows? We're in the mystery.
We're in the mystery. Beautiful. Thank you so much for the conversation, Amanda. Of
course. Thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure.
So this was Wisdom in Motion with Amanda Noga. Keep on shining in the spirit of yoga.